Dear audience, please let's stand up for both the national anthem of the state of Kuwait and the United States of America. Let's begin our ceremony by listening to some verses from the Holy Quran recited by Saad al-Kadal.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا وأن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة أعتدنا لهم عذابا أليما ويدعو الإنسان بالشر دعاءه بالخير وكان الإنسان عجولا وجعلنا الليل والنهار فمحونا آية الليل وجعلنا آية النهار مبصرة لتبتغوا فضلا من ربكم ولتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب وكل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Faiz Al-Asmi, our school principal, is to address you now.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب اليه ونصلي وسلم على سيدنا محمد واله وصحبه اجمعين. ايها الحفل الكريم، نستقبلكم اليوم مع ذكريات تدور في قلوبنا تملا القلوب الما بعدوان جار علينا، وتملا النفوس سعاده بالوقوف اخوه واصدقاء واشقاء معا. الحمد لله الذي جمع القلوب حول قضيته العادله، ووقف العالم كله وعلى راسهم الولايات المتحده الامريكيه رافضين ان يفيد الباقي من عدوانه، مصممين على الانسحاب غير المشروع. لقد جمعت الولايات المتحده تحت مظله واحده القوات المشتركه العربيه والاسلاميه والصديقه بكل امكانياتها العسكريه لمحاربه المعتدي برساله حتى تحقق النصر وتم التحرير. وكل الشكر والتقدير لكم جميعا، ورعاية الكويت لا تنسى جميلكم على مر الاجيال. كل الشكر لكم ولكل من اسهم في استعاده الحق وحمايه القانون الدولي. وفق الله الجميع، والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Mr. Faiz. And now I will leave you with a welcoming speech presented by الوكيل.
Mr. Faiz Al-Azmi, the school principal في مامان Secondary School for Boys. Mr. Ali Aziz Al-Quddus and Mr. Ali Abdullah, the school deputies. The respected members of the American Embassy, our honorable audience. May I take this opportunity to welcome you all and to extend a further word of welcome to everyone here this morning. We are also proud to have chosen to visit our school on this memorable occasion. In fact, we all cannot forget your contribution to the liberation of Kuwait. Although we didn't witness those horrible days when Kuwait was invaded by the late Iranian regime, we do appreciate your good response to save not only the Kuwaiti people, but also the values of liberties and the right to live peacefully. We will always feel grateful to the effective role of the United States government and the armed forces. We hope you continue to exert more efforts to help prevail peace and prosperity in this area. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mubarak. It's time for Mr. Mark Hussein, the United States Embassy's official spokesperson.
Assalamu alaikum. Wakil Wuzara Faisal Al-Maksud, Sayyid Faiz Al-Azmi, Azumullah Al-Hadur, and Al-Safarat Britannia, Francia, Saudiya, Masriya, Canadiya, ودول مجلسة الخليج. Colonel Blanchett, أداء القوات العسكرية الأمريكية، طلاب مدرسة الإمام مالك الثانوية، الحضور الكريم، بالنيابة عن السفارة الأمريكية والقوات العسكرية الأمريكية، أشكركم على الفرصة الحديث معكم اليوم. نحتفل اليوم بالعلاقات الأمريكية والكويتية المتينة، وطبعا هذه العلاقات علاقات اقتصادية ودبلوماسية وسياسية وثقافية، ولكن أهم من كل هذه عنها العلاقات بين الأصدقاء. وضعت هذه الأصدقاء تحت اختبار قبل 25 سنة، وأنا فخور بأن أقول أن أمريكا وقفت مع الكويت خلال أصعب اللحظات. نتيجة لذلك صداقاتنا أصبحت أقوى وأقوى. معنا اليوم أعداء من القوات العسكرية الأمريكية، منهم من كان مع 700,000 جندي أمريكي ساعدوا في تحرير الكويت قبل ربع قرن. للطلاب هنا عندي طلب خاص لكل الطلاب الموجودين، بما فيها ابني الكبير يعقوب. هو يمثل كل الشباب الأمريكيين. يا طلاب وأصدقائكم وأخوانكم، تذكروا تاريخكم، تذكروا تضحيات آبائكم وأجدادكم لتعيشوا أنتم بحرية. تذكروا معاناة أهل الكويت خلال الاحتلال، وتذكروا أصدقائكم الشعب الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، شعب دول تحالف مشاركة الذي قدموا تضحياتهم أيضا لتكون الكويت ما هي عليه اليوم. ولكن بحين تتذكرون الماضي، علموا أن هذه التضحيات كانت للأجيال الكويت القادمة، وبسبب هذه التضحيات أن مستقبل الكويت بيدكم، عليكم مسؤولية سنة مستقبل أفضل الكويت. شكرا والسلام عليكم. It is now my pleasure to bring to the stage Colonel Wayne Blanchett, the Vice Chief of the Office of Military Collaboration.
Assalamu alaikum. Undersecretary Al-Maksi, Principal Ra'aiyas, colleagues from coalition embassies, members of the U.S. military, students of the Al-Aman Malik Boys High School, and distinguished guests.
المدير رعاية، زملائي في سفارات دول التحالف، أفراد القوات المسلحة الأمريكية، طلاب مدرسة الإمام مالك للبنين، الضيوف الكرام.
On behalf of the United States military forces in Kuwait, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today and to celebrate the bond of friendship between our two countries. The United States greatly appreciates all that Kuwait does to support our U.S. military in Kuwait.
نياباً عن القوات المسلحة الأمريكية في دولة الكويت، أود أن أشكركم لإتاحة الفرصة لي اليوم لأتحدث إليكم للاحتفال بمكانة أوصال الصداقة بين دولتين.
Now, as I look out across the young faces in the theater, I know that the students here were not yet alive when U.S. forces, most of them not much older than yourselves, were on a very different mission to help liberate Kuwait from occupation and return the country to the peace and prosperity we know today.
الآن عندما أنظر إلى هذه الوجوه الشابة في هذه القاعة، أعلم أن هؤلاء الطلاب لم يكونوا قد ولدوا بعد عندما قامت القوات الأمريكية، ومعظمهم لم يكونوا أكبر منكم سنا في ذلك الوقت.
You may have heard stories from your parents or grandparents about their experiences during those eventful times of 1990 and 1991.
لهم كانت مهمة مختلفة جدا، وهي المساعدة في تحرير دولة الكويت من الاحتلال وإعادتها إلى السلام والازدهار الذي نراه اليوم. لابد أنكم قد سمعتم قصصا من أيام من آبائكم وأجدادكم عن تجرباتهم في أحداث 1990 ل 91.
They may recall their joy at seeing U.S. Marines and Kuwaitis together raise the Kuwaiti flag over the airport, and it was secured after a bloody battle with Saddam's forces.
وقد يتذكر آباءكم وأجدادكم سعادتهم عندما رأوا قوات المشاة البحرية الأمريكية والكويتية معا يرفعون العلم الكويتي فوق المطار عندما تم تأمينه بعد المعركة الدموية من قوات صدام.
So in the spirit of remembrance, I challenge each of you to learn about the incredibly important chapter of our two nations' history.
وفي أجواء وروح هذه الذكرى أطلب منكم أن تتعلموا عن هذا الفصل المهم في تاريخ شعبنا.
Ask your moms, dads, uncles, aunts, grandparents, and your teachers about their experiences during this time. I think you'll find it a homework project that you'll enjoy.
اسألوا أمهاتكم وآباءكم وعماتكم وأعمامكم وأجدادكم ومعلميكم عن تجربتهم في ذلك الوقت. آمل أنكم ستجدون هذا الواجب شيقا وممتعا.
I also personally want to recognize and thank the veterans seated here for their sacrifices in the past and salute the young soldiers who are here today to continue to build upon the strong relationship the United States and Kuwait enjoy today, which was forged in war 25 years ago. U.S. service members, please stand and be recognized.
الموجودين هنا في استمرار البناء على هذه العلاقات القوية بين الولايات المتحدة ودولة الكويت التي نتمتع بها الآن والتي ازدادت في القوة في 25 سنة الماضية.
The future of Kuwait belongs to you. Your generation has the responsibility to move Kuwait forward into a better future. Understanding your past will allow you to reach for that better future. Shukran.
دولة الكويت إلى الأمام وتحقيق مستقبل أفضل. إن درايتكم بالماضي سيتيح لكم الفرصة للتوصل إلى مستقبل أفضل. وشكرا.
Thanks, Mr. Mark. Sayyid Abbas, Hussein Khalid, and Naif Muhammad will present a historical acting scene about the Iraqi invasion.
August 2nd, 1990 was not like any other day in Kuwait.
I don't have memories of the Iraqi invasion, as I was born right after it occurred.
The most horrible part was to experience the invasion. Iraq's leader ordered the invasion and the occupation of Kuwait with the apparent aim of acquiring Kuwait's large oil reserves. I was a happy little boy living in Kuwait with my parents and brothers. Not in our wildest dreams did we envisage that we would have to face a dramatic invasion. We were woken up by an explosion at around 5 o'clock in the morning. The explosion shook our building. There were jet planes flying all around at low heights. We wondered for a moment what it was all about and discarded it to be another rehearsal by the Kuwaiti soldiers. Iraqi army tanks were everywhere, while helicopters were just a few feet above our building.
How long did you stay in this situation?
We stayed this way for 2 months, thinking the Iraqis would leave and life would be peaceful again. This traumatic ordeal ended on the 26th of February 1991 and is celebrated with a huge rejoice and passion on this day every year. The Kuwaiti flag is displayed from the highest points all over the country, and people are seen congratulating and feasting together to give thanks to all the lives that were lost during the war and to celebrate their liberation and freedom.
And prosperity.
I remember with the speech of President Bush after the liberation, he said, "Our military objectives are met. Kuwait is once more in the hands of the Kuwaitis in control of their own destiny. We share in their joy, a joy tempered only by our compassion for their ordeal. And soon we will open wide our arms to welcome back home to America our magnificent fighting forces."
Thanks, Syed Hussein Ahmed. And now we'll be watching a movie about what Kuwait has endured at the time of the Iraqi invasion.
In 1991, the small Arab state of Kuwait was at the center of the last major war of the 20th century. Saddam Hussein's Iraq had invaded Kuwait, putting nearly half the world's oil within his reach. Virtually everyone agreed he had to be stopped. Over 1 million troops faced each other across the battlefield. Revolutionary new technology like stealth bombs, cruise missiles, and precision-guided bombs would make this a battle unlike anything anyone had seen before. With his seizure of Kuwait, Saddam Hussein threatened to hold the whole world to ransom. He warned that the fight that would follow would be the mother of all battles. Everything would now depend on the outcome of Operation Desert Storm, a battle for Kuwait. Around 4:30 a.m., just hours after the start of the invasion, Iraqi troops arrived here at the Parliament building. The guards were taken completely by surprise, and within minutes, Kuwait's Parliament had been captured. At the end of the day, the entire country of Kuwait was completely overrun, as thousands of Iraqi troops continued to pour across the border. And they were all obeying the orders of one man, Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was the president of Iraq and a brutal dictator. For 11 years he had enforced a violent regime and murdered and tortured without hesitation. He built up the fourth largest army in the world with over 1 million troops.
Will not stand. This will not stand, this aggression against Kuwait.
What has happened is a total violation of international law.
Please raise their hand.
The United Nations condemned the invasion and called on Saddam to withdraw his troops from Kuwait. Within hours, one of the biggest deployments of troops since World War II was underway. More than 250,000 American and British troops from bases in the US and Europe headed to the deserts of the Middle East. The Americans and British were determined that their stand against Saddam Hussein should be seen as an international operation and not as an American-led attack on an Arab country. In the coming months, troops from over 30 countries would take their place alongside the Americans and British in the Saudi Arabian desert. It was an extraordinary coalition that even included several Arab states like Egypt and Syria, but it was the Americans that dominated. Man in charge was called General Norman Schwarzkopf. He was a giant of a man with a keen intellect.
Saddam's men were looting shops, houses and factories across the city. Torture and punishment meetings became commonplace as the Iraqis tried to crush any sign of Kuwaiti resistance. Some resistance fighters were even shot dead in front of their own families as a warning to everybody else not to get involved.
Will not be. Not of yet.
Choose to continue its brutal occupation of Kuwait. Iraq
be choosing a military confrontation which it cannot win and which will have devastating consequences.
But Saddam remained as defiant as ever and promised his people a great victory. He warned that the Americans depended too much on technology. He boasted that Iraq could rely on the bravery and experience of its soldiers. Their faith would defeat the enemy.
At midnight on January the 15th, 1991, the UN deadline expired. Across the world, people watched and waited. Everybody knew it was just a matter of time before the war began.
In the early hours of January the 17th, 1991, hundreds of coalition aircraft took to the skies and headed for their targets.
Operation Desert Storm had begun. British RAF pilots in low-flying Tornado aircraft carried bombs designed to crater Iraqi runways. The Americans' first target was Iraq's capital. From the rooftops of Baghdad, 3,000 anti-aircraft guns fired into the night.
Flying straight into this wall of fire were 8 American bombers. They were so sophisticated that the Saudis had nicknamed them ghosts.
The F-117 stealth bomber was designed to be invisible to radar. But this was its first test in major combat.
The stealth's first target was the main communications tower in Baghdad.
At exactly 3 a.m., the pilot of the lead aircraft pushed the button and a 2,000-pound laser-guided bomb descended on its target. Across the city, the ground shook as 14 more bombs from other stealths hit their targets. The aircraft turned for home. Cruise missiles launched from US warships knocked out the power stations and plunged the city into darkness.
On the 24th of January, 40% of the coalition's air sorties were diverted to scud hunting, and special forces like Britain's SAS were sent into Iraq to try and destroy the launchers from the ground.
Get rid of the ground troops, so we really trying to get them going, clear it out the ground. We sent out 300 or 400 bombs today, some of them 1,000 pounds today, so it's unreal it's going out here.
In retaliation for the coalition's continuous aerial bombardment, Saddam Hussein unleashed a new kind of destruction. He ordered the Iraqi army to blow up the oil fields of Kuwait. It created scenes of apocalyptic devastation.
It looks like what I envisioned hell would look like. The country of Kuwait is burning.
Hundreds of wells were blown up, sending a wall of flame and smoke thousands of feet into the air. Pipelines were ruptured, storage tanks exploded, and huge lakes of oil pooled in the desert sand. Choking black clouds filled the air, and day turned to night as the smoke blocked out the sun.
The ground attack began.
The first to go in would be the US Marines.
This is it. Have fun.
the Marines continued forward into Kuwait. There was little resistance, and nearly everywhere their progress was unopposed.
Right now, I feel sorry for the people that are remaining on the inside because we're going to wipe them out in a matter of time.
The Marines were scoring a major success in their thrust up here in the Kuwait, almost too successful. They and the Arab forces to the east and west of them.
10 hours into the ground war, at 2:30 p.m., British and American troops began a massive artillery barrage onto the Iraqi positions in front of them. One of their key weapons was the multiple launch rocket system. Every available American aircraft was ordered into the attack, with devastating results. Hours later, coalition troops led by units from Kuwait's own army arrived in Kuwait City. The streets soon filled with vehicles as people celebrated the end of the Iraqi occupation.
Welcome in Kuwait! Welcome, please, welcome!
Alongside them, American troops greeted as heroes, as liberators of a country that had been subjected to months of horror by the Iraqi regime.
They don't have any civilization. They kill not by guns only, by torturing.
I am pleased to announce that exactly 100 hours since ground operations commenced and 6 weeks since the start of Operation Desert Storm, all United States and coalition forces will suspend offensive combat operations.
The Gulf War was over.
Demonstrate some first aid measures used at the time of war and peace.
We're very happy to be here to help celebrate the 25th liberation of Kuwait.
شكرا لكم عزيزي ان احنا نحتفل معاكم للعيد ال 25 لتحرير الكويت.
We are all medics with the military, those of us in this uniform from the United States Air Force, and the gentleman in the other uniform from the U.S. Navy.
احنا كلنا من القوات الامريكيه المسلحه، احنا اللي لابسين اللبس ده من القوات الجويه، ولابسين اللبس الثاني هناك هم من القوات البحريه.
So we wanted to show you today some first aid techniques that you can use in real life.
احنا النهارده عايزين نفرجكم شويه اسعافات اوليه تقدروا تستعملوها في كل يوم.
We're going to show you how we take care of injuries with with severe bleeding and injuries with broken bones.
هنوريكم تقدروا تعملوا ايه لو في حد بينزل جامد او لو حد كسر عضله.
First, we're going to go over severe bleeding.
أول حاجة هنعملها هو اللذيذ.
So all of our students here, we provided them with some big injuries.
احنا كل الطلاب هنا ادينا لهم شوية جروح مش حقيقية حطيتها عليهم.
So whenever you see an injury like this, the first thing you're going to want to do is to apply direct pressure.
أول حاجة هتعملوها لما تشوفوا جرح زي ده تضغطوا جامد عليها.
And if that doesn't stop the bleeding, then you want to raise the arm above the level of the heart.
ولو ده ما بطلش نزيف هتقدروا انتوا ترفعوا الجرح فوق مستوى القلب.
And usually this will stop the bleeding.
وأكترية الوقت ده هيبطل النزيف.
And then you can go ahead and bandage the arm.
فلو النزيف وقف تقدروا انتوا تحطوا شاشة على الجرح.
We're using bandages today, but if you were doing this and you didn't have bandages, you could use anything such as a towel or a sheet.
احنا عندنا شاشة النهارده بس طبعا لو ما عندكمش أي حاجة زي كده تقدروا تستعملوا أي حاجة قماش.
And in some cases, the bleeding still isn't going to stop.
بس برضه ساعات مهما عملت كده ممكن النزيف ما يوقفش.
So if that's the case, then you would want to use a pressure point.
لو ده حصل هنضطر ان احنا نستعمل حاجة اسمها أماكن الضغط.
So we have 3 main pressure points that we use.
في 3 أماكن ضغط في الجسم اللي احنا بنستعملها.
We have the brachial artery on the arm.
الأول واحدة اللي هي العمودية بالإيد.
The radial artery on the wrist.
والتاني واحدة هي الشعاية.
And the femoral artery for the legs.
والتالت واحدة هي الفخذية.
Since there are injuries today on their arm, we're going to be using the brachial artery.
فاحنا النهارده قدام عارفين ان احنا الجرح على ايدينا هنستعمل العضلات.
If this doesn't stop the bleeding, the next technique we will use is a tourniquet.
ده برضه ما خلصش النزيف هنضطر ان احنا نربط الجرح لحد ما النزيف يقف.
So for us in the military, we have this device here that we will use as a tourniquet.
احنا عندنا في الجيش الجهاز ده اللي بنستعمله عشان نوقف النزيف.
But we're going to show you how you can make one of these on your own.
بس احنا هنوريكم تقدروا تعملوا ايه لو ما عندكوش حاجه زي كده.
So you can use a piece of cloth, a shirt, or whatever you have on hand.
تقدروا تستعملوا اي حته قماش عندكم، اي تيشيرت، اي حاجه.
And you would roll it up.
بعدين تلفوها.
And then tie it around the upper arm.
تلفوها حوالين الايد.
Once you have that tied, you'll find a stick and you will place that over top of the knot.
أول ما تربطوها تلاقوا أي عصاية تقدروا تحطوها فوق العقدة.
And then you would tie a knot on top of that.
واربطوا عقدة كمان فوق العصاية.
And then next you would twist until the bleeding stops.
بعدين هتقعدوا تلفوها لحد ما النزيف يقف.
Once the bleeding is controlled, you can tuck the stick into the material.
بعد ما تخلصوا تقدروا تحطوا حتة القماش تمسكوها ببقية الشاش عشان ما تتحركش.
And then you would, of course, try to get to a hospital as soon as you can.
وطبعا تخلوها في مكانها لحد لما تقدروا تودوها للمستشفى والدكتور يساعدكم.
So that's all we have for the bleeding control. You could give our volunteers a round of applause. the next thing we're going to go over is going to be how to take care of broken bones.
فالحاجة الثانية دلوقتي اللي احنا هنتفرجها هنعمل ايه لو الأعضاء مكسورة، فلو الاختبار اللي هيساعدونا يقدروا يجوا هنا.
So if you're ever in a vehicle accident or you have a great fall, some things that you can look for in a broken bone.
فلو وقعت جامد أو لو حاجة حصلت الحاجات اللي تقدروا تبصوا تشوفوا عشان تعرفوا لو الأعضاء مكسورة.
Is pain, deformities, or swelling.
لو بتوجع خالص أو لو ورمة أو لو الإيد أو زي كده.
So the first thing you want to do is to make sure that you don't bend the injury.
أول حاجة لازم تتأكدوا تعملوها إن انتوا ما تحركوش الإيد المكسورة.
You want to support it and keep it in place.
عاوزين تمسكوها من تحتيها كده.
The next thing we're going to do is you want something hard on your forearm. So today we're going to use rolled up newspapers, but you can use a stick as well.
ودي حاجة انتوا عايزين تعملوها إن انتوا تحطوا حاجة تسندها من تحتيها، فالنهارده احنا هنستعمل مجلات ما تتحطش.
Then once you have that under the arm, you can go ahead and secure it in place with a sheet.
وأول لما المجلة أو العصاية تكون تحت الإيد امسكوها في مكانها بأي حتة قماش عندكم.
Once you have the splint in place, we're going to put in a stomach squat to keep the arm from moving.
أول ما تكون ثبتوها في مكانها هنلفها بشكل ما عشان ما تتحركش.
So to do this, we have some triangular bandages.
فاحنا عشان نعمل كده هنقدر عاوز حتة قماش مثلثة.
You can make one of these yourself just by cutting a sheet.
تقدروا تعملوا واحدة من دول نفسكم بس تقطعوا أي حتة قماش.
So you're going to tie a knot at the top of the triangle.
فلازم تقطعوا عقدة في الركن الفوقاني من القماش المثلث.
And you're going to place the knot of that behind the elbow.
هتاخدوا العقدة دي وتحطوها ورا الكوع.
Once you have that under the arm, you're going to take the side of the sheet that's closest to the chest and place it around the neck.
بعد ما تعملوا كده هتاخدوا حتة القماش القريبة من الجسم نفسها وتحطوها حوالين الكتف السليم.
And then take the outside of the sheet and place it around the other side of the neck. And you're going to tie that.
وهتاخدوا حتة القماش الثانية وتربطوها من ناحية الكتف المأسي وتربطوا المشتين مع بعض ورا الأرض.
So this gives us a good sling for the arm, but as you can see, it's still able to move around a lot.
فهي دي طريقة كويسة إن احنا نسند الإيد بس احنا مش شايفين لسه نقدر إن احنا نحرك الإيد برضه.
So we're going to take another triangular bandage.
فاحنا هناخد حتة قماش تانية.
We're going to tie that, roll that, and tie that around the chest and the injured arm.
وهنلفها حوالين نفسها وبعدين هنربطها حوالين الصدر والإيد المأسية.
Making sure that the uninjured arm is left free to move.
طبعا التأكيد إنك ما تربطيش الإيد السليمة كمان.
Alright, if we could have the students do a spin around so everyone can see.
لو سمحتوا تلفوا عشان كل حد يشوف الوجه.
So now the injury is secure until you can get to the hospital. And that's all we have today. Thank you for having us here. We're really enjoying our visit.
Deputy Military Attaché is going to honor and offer appreciation certificates to students who take part in today's program. Mahsen Ali. Join us on stage. Sayyid Abbas. Please round of applause for Sayyid Ali for organization. Next is Fahd Azmi.
خليه يمر عليك يا سيدي. متى؟
والله ما ادري متى قم الصور لا هي من
غدرة بيضاء. غدرة بيضاء.
Dear audience, our program has come to an end. I would like to thank you all for being here today. You are truly honored for your visit and contribution. We all wish to see you again on a happy occasion. Thank you and goodbye.
لحظة التكريم. الآن دور التكريم، فليتفضل الأستاذ الفاضل مدير المدرسة ليكرم الضيوف الكرام. يتفضل السيد مدير المدرسة والسيد وكيل الوزارة الأستاذ فيصل المنصير ومستر بروشيك لتكريم الضيوف.
هناك لازم ياخذ الواسطة، ما يصير يقدر يعني يشتغل تقريبا
الأستاذ منصور الدهاني مدير عام التربوية والتعليم.
ثلاثة. هي الكاميرا هذيك كلها.
الأستاذ الفاضل فيصل المنصير وكيل وزارة التنمية والانشطة التربوية. جلب التذكاري الأستاذ منصور الدهاني مدير عام وزارة الأعلى للتعليم، مدير عام الإدارة العامة ومبادرة تغيير التعليم.